From carbonated beverage shortages to technology that's suddenly out of date, Disney World could be in for a very weird set of problems they'll need to solve. Hey everybody, it's AJ for Disney Food Blog. Now, it's no secret that Disney's in for a pretty interesting year. The future of the parks is optimistic but uncertain, and Disney is going to face some weird problems, including some you're probably not even expecting. The first is those supply chain issues. Disney has to supply enough food to support thousands upon thousands of guests and stock over 30,000 guest rooms. So what happens when they can't get the supplies they need? Industries across the country and the world are experiencing some supply chain issues right now, and two may impact Disney in a big way. First up, those carbonation shortages. By mid-April, carbonation production was down 30% with an expected eventual 70% drop in CO2 supplies. Disney's a large company and should fare better than most in securing things that do become scarce, but with a decrease in the amount of CO2 available, we could see a switch to more bottled soda and beer to reduce the amount of CO2 needed on Disney property. This may mean those Coke Freestyle machines have to take a hiatus while Disney lets the bottling plants handle the carbonation instead, but again, we'll wait and see. Also, those food supply issues. Many stores across the country have started limiting meat purchases. But what does that mean on a large scale for places like Disney World? Disney World's 420 restaurants may need to make some menu changes in order to keep up. Many processing and packaging facilities have closed temporarily, affecting the country's meat supply, and operations will need to resume before the industry can expect to balance the supply chain. In the meantime, Disney may not be able to secure the quantities of food needed to keep certain items on the menu full time. We could see more smaller menus at restaurants, or we could see more specials that take advantage of the changing food supply and what's available locally. Now, again, Disney's a large company and has access to a lot of steady contracts, so this may not affect them at all, but it is affecting a lot of suppliers globally, so we'll see what happens. Now, many parts of the country are still seeing shortages of paper products and cleaning supplies, along with personal protective equipment, and that extends back to the manufacturers as well. Disney needs to secure hand sanitizer to fill all those new stations that will be filling the parks at high touch points, likely at the entrance and exit of rides, along with inside restaurants, at parks and hotels, etc. They'll also need to supply PPE for all employees to keep everything on par with the state and government guidelines. And with Disney Springs requiring guests to wear masks, we expect the same may be true of the parks once they reopen, or at least Disney is testing it right now. Disney has recently started selling face masks on Shop Disney, and while they're currently pre-ordered, they're expected to be available by the end of July, so we could see them sold in the parks as well, especially if Disney's requiring guests to wear them. Alright, the next weird problem that Disney might experience this year, an active hurricane season. So analysts are predicting an above-average hurricane season for 2020, and Disney's dealt with its fair share of hurricanes in the past. The parks have closed 6 times due to hurricanes: Floyd in '99, Charlie in '04, Jean in '04, Matthew in '16, Irma in '17, and Dorian last year, 2019. Analysts are predicting up to 14 to 18 tropical storms this year, and of this estimate, 7 to 9 are predicted to become hurricanes, while 2 to 4 might strengthen into major hurricanes. In a normal year, there are usually 12 storms, 6 hurricanes, and 3 major hurricanes, so we've got a little bump up predicted right now. Though the parks may close, Disney's always left resorts open to guests and a ride-out crew of cast members who are willing to stay on property for the duration of the storm. They're brought in to take care of those guests. Things may be different this year, though. Many hurricane-prone areas are urging residents to prepare a little differently and alter plans in light of the current global situation. We're not sure how that will affect Disney's hurricane plans, so if you're planning a trip during hurricane season, it runs through November, by the way, consider travel insurance. There's several places to get travel insurance. Just check what exactly is covered and that you are insured for hurricane-related trip interruptions. Be sure to look at that fine print, you guys. Know the Disney hurricane policy as well. If there's a hurricane warning issued for the Orlando area or for your home area within 7 days of your arrival, Disney allows you to cancel or reschedule your trip without a fee. Also, keep an eye on those weather forecasts. Hurricanes can develop quickly and with little notice, but most of the time meteorologists have a pretty good idea that a storm is on the way, sometimes even days or weeks in advance. Always keep an eye on the weather leading up to your trip and have a plan in place should you need to change your travel dates. The next weird problem Disney could experience this year: fewer guests. So Disney's now stated that capacity will likely be reduced in the parks once they reopen, just like it is at Shanghai right now. But they may be dealing with fewer guests than normal, with without making any effort. The Florida Tourism Board is focusing on targeting Florida residents for staycations before turning marketing efforts to out-of-state guests. And even after the parks open, it may be some time before residents from other states are easily allowed to travel to Florida. Residents of New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Louisiana are required to self-isolate for 14 days when entering the state of Florida right now. And those travel restrictions will need to be lifted before Disney can expect lots of people to return to the parks. When will international guests be able to travel? Well, interstate travel will return to normal a lot faster than international travel probably will. 68 countries around the world currently have some form of travel ban in place that would also need to be lifted for travel to resume. Beyond that, it may be a while before international flights resume their normal schedules. Now, there is an airline bailout right now. $25 billion airline rescue package has been approved by the U.S. government in an effort to support the industry, which has seen dramatic drops in air traffic routes, some carriers by 90%. IATA, which is the International Air Transport Association, projects a recovery of 75% of flights in the third quarter of 2020, with 90% returning by the end of the year, partially due to this rescue package. So with the bailout, it's a bit safer to book that flight, though we'd keep an eye on change in cancellation fees, and we expect some routes to still be serviced a bit less than normal. All right, let's talk about that suddenly outdated technology. So park entrance tap styles. Will we use the biometric scanners to enter the parks when they reopen? State and government guidelines specify reducing high touch point areas, or at least suggest providing hand sanitizer both before and after using them. So Disney may need to quickly develop a workaround for guests holding their fingers to the scanners, or find space for a lot more sanitizer stands at park entrances. Disneyland matches your ticket to a photo rather than using the finger scan technology that's been used at Disney World since '96. By the way, it was used for pass holders before 2005 when it was expanded to more guest tickets, and the current biometric scanners were introduced in 2012. On the flip side, the virtual queue system developed for Galaxy's Edge might suddenly take a much bigger role in Disney Vacations. Disney's already expressed a goal of using technology to mitigate crowd levels and help with social distancing, and we could see an expanded use of virtual queues. Since the technology already exists, it's a matter of scaling it up to be available in more lands and for more rides. We could see a reliance on FastPass in order to limit the number of guests in each queue as well, and Disney has also stated that some attractions may have limited availability or be unavailable altogether when the parks reopen. Next weird problem Disney's going to probably experience this year: big construction delays. So Disney has a ton of construction happening at the moment in preparation for the 50th anniversary coming up next year. Some things are certainly delayed, but we may even see a few head to the chopping block. So Guardians of the Galaxy, Cosmic Rewind, the Tron Coaster, the park entrance updates to Magic Kingdom, and the entire front of Epcot are all well under construction, so they will probably finish, even if they've experienced some setbacks by having construction postponed during the closures. But the Spaceship Earth refurbishment, Roundup Rodeo Barbecue in Toy Story Land, and Moana-inspired Journey of Water in Epcot have all been announced, but work hasn't gone too far just yet as far as we can tell, so they may be pushed back even further if Disney decides to focus efforts on getting those larger scale, more in-your-face projects done first. After 9/11, when tourism dropped, Disney abandoned hotel construction projects like the legendary Years of Pop Century. Years later, they built Art of Animation in that location, and you can learn more about that whole process in this video. But could we see some projects completely abandoned in the midst of all this? The Reflections Resort has broken ground, but not too much has happened yet, and if Disney can't fill rooms, a new hotel may be further down the list of projects that need to get done ASAP, especially when the hotel isn't projected to open until 2022. Another weird problem Disney might need to deal with this year: taking away refillable options. Remember when Strawpocalypse hit and Disney took away a ton of single-use plastics, including plastic straws, lids, and those mini shampoos in hotel rooms? Well, now we've got an even bigger reason to be wary of the refillable permanent shampoo fixtures in resort showers. Presumably these will be disinfected like the rest of the room, but this could be a sticking point for many guests. So will Disney nix some of those reusable items? Could popcorn buckets and refillable mugs be removed from parks? Cast members could use disposable gloves and potentially a new scoop for each customer, but the chance of germ transmission would not be zero. For refillable mugs, self-serve machines would need to be updated with sensors so guests don't need to touch anything, or there could be a cast member stationed there using disposable gloves and preventing mugs from coming into direct contact with a soda dispenser. It's likely a lot easier and a lot lower risk to switch to single-use paper popcorn cartons and drink containers. And Disney may even begin to provide more free water to reduce the use of water fountains and refill stations. We often recommend bringing your own water bottle so you don't need to pay $5 for one in the parks, and while Disney World does have a few of those touchless bottle filler stations, they're still very sparse. We did start to see more hand sanitizer stations pop up around the park, which would make using water fountains a bit safer, but we suspect Disney may add more water stations with disposable cups than we often see around the parks when it's very hot out. And of course, there'll probably be a sanitizer stand next to it. But there's no doubt that Disney will be working to innovate and adapt to this new future of the parks. Before the parks closed, they had even added a feature to My Disney Experience that let guests locate the nearest hand sanitizer or hand wash station with turn-by-turn directions on how to get there. So we expect that will be just one of the few new changes Disney makes to keep guests and cast members safe. So lots of potential problems Disney could face this year that we haven't really even thought about. As always at DFB, we are going to keep you guys up to date on everything we know. If you are not signed up for our newsletter, be sure to do that. That's where we're kind of sending all the latest and greatest information out first. Check in on the site regularly. But again, if you're signed up for the newsletter, you'll get all that information right away, right to your inbox. So thank you guys for listening. Thanks for watching. As always, this is AJ for Disney Food Blog, and we'll see you real soon.